I'm having a hard time understanding how Democrats. Well, no, I can't say that. Democrats are just not getting the truth. And I mean the Democrat that lives, down the street from you. They're just not getting the truth. They're still listening to the mainstream media. The mainstream media is dismissing as Liz Wheeler pointed out, the $34.5 million gift from the government to Politico. And we're going to have a lot more on that. All of the things that are happening, and they're being souped up by these corrupt people in Washington. I mean, how is it people are angry that Elon Musk is coming in and finding waste? That's something all of us should want, right?
Because it's our money.
It's
our money that's being wasted.
And this is the tip of the iceberg. First of all, when we're talking about USAID, what's really important, and I know you understand this if you've listened to me for a long time or you watched any of the shows. I mean, we exposed all of this. Oh my gosh, 2010. We started exposing it, but it really came to the fore when we started talking about Ukraine under the first Trump administration, when they blamed him for, corruption with Ukraine and the impeachment. We started looking into what happened in Ukraine, and my gosh, USAID, as we have always told you, is an arm of the CIA. Anything that is too risky to do, that you just don't want to do in the CIA because somebody's paying attention, you do it at USAID, okay? So all the revolutions, all the color revolutions that happen all around the world, they were done by us. The Arab Spring was done by us. We looked at that and we were told, this is just a spontaneous. No, it wasn't. It was USAID. And if you look at, just ask your friends who are Democrats, are you cool to spend $7.9 million to teach Sri Lankan journalists how to avoid binary gendered language? $20 million for a new Sesame Street show in Iraq. Actually, that one you could make a case for, because all of the kids are being, brainwashed into whatever. I don't want to do it, but that one you could make a case for. $4.5 million plus to combat disinformation in Pakistan. $4.5 million.
Yeah,
I could hire everybody in Pakistan right now just to talk to the sheep.
Tajikistan.
Whatever.
Yes.
Okay.
You could understand it if it was
Crapkanistan.
Tajikistan, but not Kyrgyzstan.
Yeah, right.
That's
just
a
totally
completely different situation.
Crapkanistan. So $1.5 million for art for inclusion of people with disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
$2 million for sex changes and LGBT activism in Guatemala. $6 million to transform digital spaces to reflect feminist democratic principles. I don't even know what those democratic feminist principles are, but transform digital spaces? What? So spaces that don't actually exist? $2.1 million to help the BBC value the diversity of Libyan society.
It's not funny, but it sounds it when you hear it this way.
I would like a Democrat that's very upset with the closure of USAID to come on and just defend any of this. $2.1 million to help the BBC, which is the British broadcasting company, which is on the the English dole, has money coming out their butt from the king, and we're paying for, so they value the diversity of Libyan society? I don't even know the diversity of the Libyan society. I don't really care about the diversity of the Libyan society. $10 million worth of USAID-funded meals, which went to an al-Qaeda-linked terrorist group. $25 million for Deloitte to promote green transportation in the country of Georgia. The president of Georgia told me once, he said, we get American values. We're all behind the founders of America. We get it. We understand freedom probably better than you do because we had to fight for our freedom recently.
Mm-hmm.
He said, please don't send us any more freedom stuff. We got it. Stop sending us the Marxists and the people who are trying to put us back into that situation.
Wow.
$6 million for tourism in Egypt. What? Honestly, here's the best thing you can do for tourism. Don't foment, an Arab Spring. That kind of stopped me from going to Egypt, Stop terrorism. That would be a good thing. $2.5 million to promote inclusion in Vietnam.
Yeah, I like the next line item, too.
$16.8 million for
a separate
group
to promote inclusion
in Vietnam. Wait, so there's
you
two groups. You
can't include the two groups.
No, you got to have them separate. And one only gets 2.5, and the other one gets $16.8 million. Do you know what $16.8 million would buy in Vietnam?
Oh,
can you imagine how far the dollar goes? I mean, you can, and this is USAID. This is their whole point. You can have revolutions in some countries with this amount of money. $5 million to EcoHealth Alliance. Oh. One of the key NGOs funding bat virus research in the Wuhan lab. $20 million to a group related to a key player in the Russiagate impeachment hoax. $1.1 million to an Armenian LGBT group. I love how specific this is getting, too, We got an LGBT group in, I think Armenia. $1.2 million to help the African Methodist Episcopal Church Service and Development Agency in Washington, D.C. build a state-of-the-art 440-seat auditorium.
It's just so ridiculous.
The African Methodist Episcopal Church. Okay, so Methodist Episcopal Church Services and Development Agency in Washington, D.C. to build a state-of-the-art 400.
Oh, at least that stayed in the U.S. then, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Creating jobs.
Yeah.
$1.3 million to Arab and Jewish photographers. I don't. What did we get some good pictures? At least show me some great black and whites. I mean, do we have any great black and whites? $1.5 million to promote LGBT advocacy in Jamaica. They gotta love that. $1.5 million to rebuild the Cuban media ecosystem.
Yeah, that's been crumbling. I've been saying it for how
when
long?
Is somebody going to come in and rebuild that ecosystem?
Cuban ecosystem.
Yeah, that's gotta happen. Again, I go back to $1.5 million to promote LGBT advocacy in Jamaica. Have you been to Jamaica? Do you know how much $1.5 million would buy in Jamaica?
A lot.
A ton.
A lot.
1.5 to rebuild the Cuban media ecosystem. I think you could buy the presidential palace in Cuba for $1.5 million. $2 million to promote LGBT equity through entrepreneurship in Latin America. $500,000 to solve sectarian violence in Israel. By the way, they gave that just a few days before October 7th. $2.3 million for artisanal and small-scale gold mining in the Amazon. Jeez. Do we get to keep the gold? Do we get any of the gold, or are we just...
My guess is no. No.
$3.9 million for LGBT causes in the Western Balkans. When you have something that vague, You know what? You could spend that on anything, on absolutely anything. $5.5 million for LGBT activism in Uganda. $6 million for advancing LGBT issues in priority countries around the world. What countries are? 6.3 for men who have sex with men in South Africa. Did we just go out in the public square and say, hey, if you're a guy who's having sex with a guy, can you raise your hand? I got some money for you. What the hell is that? 6.3 million for men who have sex with men in South Africa. 8.3 million for USAID education, equity, and inclusion. USAID's climate strategy outlined $150 billion whole-of-agency approach to building an equitable world with net zero greenhouse gas emissions. I mean, give that list to your friends and just say, hey, what part of this are you for?
Are we just immune to numbers like that now?
Yeah, I think we are.
Do we hear trillions now so often, so hundreds of billions and trillions now, that maybe when we hear, $20 million for Egypt tourism, maybe it just doesn't affect us anymore. We're like, that's not very much.
It's more than most people will pay in income tax their entire life.
Ever in their life.
Wasted.
Yeah.
Wasted. And your kids are on the hook for a loan to pay for things like that because we're $3 trillion over budget.
Yeah.
Every American, I don't care who you voted for, every American should be pissed off at this. And since when has America been okay with being this dark ops country? We're not fighting communism anymore, okay? When have we suddenly become comfortable with just overthrowing countries, just overthrowing regimes? Just going in and having the CIA, not making the case for it, just going in and having a few people, along with George Soros, just decide that regime shouldn't be here. We're going to overthrow it. When did we become cool with all of this? The answer is we didn't. We didn't. The biggest enemy we fight is complacency. It's not the other side. It's not this ideology. It's complacency. All this stuff would be stopped if there were enough people on both sides, all sides, that would stand up and go, what the hell is this? I mean, we can talk about disagreement on the tax policy and everything, but it's got to stop right now. Right now.